Christy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media, where we give you the best Trump tweet decodes on the face of the earth. I challenge anybody, especially Fox News, to beat us in our analysis. So, Thomas, where do you want to start? Folks, you know how it works. If you want to follow along, click on the article link below and share this video, upload it to your own YouTube site. We don't care. Let's just get the intel out.
May 31st with Pompeo's retreat.
Okay, you're going to start from the book on.
Retreat. By the way, I want to say it's an honor to be able to attempt to decode these as best we can because the mind of the president is astounding and we really can't fully comprehend all that he's doing. And remember, he does not tell all of his strategies. He tells us that. So,
and you bring up a very good point because he knows so much top secret stuff, and he has to be careful that he doesn't say top secret things. All right. So what he might do is he might look through the news or he might look through tweets. And if he sees something that's in the general public, he could bring that up because, he didn't say it. He's just pointing and saying, now this is interesting. And then that's why you want to listen to Thomas, because Thomas is going to tell you why it's so interesting.
Well, and it's profound what he knows. He knows the other spies just like we do. He can't say them, not until they become public knowledge. So, when they say there was one spy and yet that's not even confirmed, Stephen Halper, no, there's many and he knows who they are. He knows all of this. He pulls in the crooked ones, gets them on his side, they tell him what's going on, and then he fires them. I mean, they're so stupid they keep taking the job. Anyway, Pompeo is basically saying, we're in a new era of hope and wonderfulness and what's happening in North Korea. Okay, here's what's going to really shock people. When there's peace in North Korea, and they're already going to be denuclearized by the time they sit down at the table. Okay? So here's the deal with Trump and all of his deals. You're not going to sit down at the table without knowing where he is and what he stands for and where he's going. He's not going to waste his time on you. And so he's sitting down with Kim after he denuclearizes, after he belittled him into not being a divine personage as the leader of North Korea, and showed him basically for being a temperamental totalitarian dictator, essentially. So they're going to sit down at the table, but the deal's already done. So what do you think is going to happen with Iran if Trump sits down unilaterally with Iran? What do you think is going to happen? And this is an example. What do you think would happen if Trump sat down for Middle East peace talks? Why do you think he sent Jared? Because they're not going to sit down. 100 missiles have been launched into Israel in the last few weeks. And, of course, they've retaliated. And, of course, it had to do with the border skirmishes going on. But the point is, has Trump said, I'm going to sit down for peace talks? No. He's called them out for who they are and ticked them off by moving the capital to Jerusalem. And that was his move. To sit down at the table, you have to acknowledge a two-state solution or he's not going to waste his time. So that's what's going on with Korea. It's the tip of the iceberg of what's going to be Trump diplomacy, which is no nonsense, no playing games, and it's an art of the deal. He's going to get a good deal. If you're not going to give him a good deal, don't sit down at the table with him. And then that goes to the next one, May 31st, which is fair trade, he says. Fair trade. First time in American history since really the Brits and the Boston Tea Party that we've actually had fair trade. No, we have been gutted by every country that these presidents do these deals with so that they can get personal enrichment before, during, and after. And
they're modern day pirates, and if you look carefully, you'll see that there actually were pirates. It was with which one? The East or the Dutch East Indies?
Yes, and they
were pirates. I mean, if you look at Vanguard, that big hedge fund or whatever fund they call themselves, and because there are several Vanguards, they're closely aligned with all these corruptocrats that we see in D.C. And if you look at their logo, it's a pirate.
The skull and crossbones, as you point out, flown by pirates in the Dutch East India Company, the British East India Company. Yeah, they're pirates. And where did those pirates go?
In
skull
suits.
And bones into Yale.
No, yeah.
Into President Bush, two of them in a row.
Right.
Into so many people, skull and bones, we can't name them all. Anyway, fair trade. How can Trump believe that is a statement? It's because it's an announcement that the first time in modern history we're going to have an attempt at fair trade. And he's basically saying, tough luck to Canada, tough luck to Mexico. You don't like, goodbye NAFTA, goodbye TPP, goodbye TPP, all of them. Goodbye to all of those trade deals. Those weren't trade deals. That was the fleecing of America.
I don't know where you want to go next.
June 1st.
Okay. AP has just reported that the Russian hoax investigation has now cost our government over $17 million and going up fast. No collusion except by the Democrats.
Isn't that wonderful? Indictments that probably won't hold, and yet the left, the Democrats, scream about how wonderful it's Mueller time. Mueller's got so many indictments. So far, it looks like none of those will hold, and 13 of them were for Russians that don't exist, who didn't even do anything during the election, and 3 of them are Russian companies. One of them didn't even exist during the election. Mueller, $17 million. Now we know, let's be fair about this, only about $5 million went to him directly and his team of 17 lawyers. Come on now, that's what's the average, if you $300,000-400,000 a year, that's nothing for these lawyers. But remember what we've always told you. It's already slated without any problem, so later he will bill a lot more. This is just the upfront billing, you know how lawyers are. Later that bill will be doubled or tripled. Why? Because he has $100 million a year to spend on a special counsel. Thank you, Janet Reno, for adding that to the regulations instead of removing it from the law and putting it into a regulation so that you could have unlimited money for these silly, ridiculous, unfounded, illegal special counsels.
But if you look deeper in this tweet, you'll see that he points out the AP. And as we know, the AP and Reuters are very corrupt, and they're the heart and soul of the fake news. If you're in a news agency, you got to go somewhere to get your news, so you go to Reuters and AP. And there, if you look behind the screen there, you will see the bankers, and you'll tell more about that. So I wonder if the AP was telling the truth. Could it be more?
Oh, well, that's why it's a lie, because it's from the Associated Press. So what did I just say? It's going to be 2 to 3 times that amount or more, and that's the reason I'm complaining about it. Yes, up front, right now, to this moment, $17 million per year.
Yeah.
How long is this going on? We told you it was going to go on 5-6 years, so that they could keep deriding the Republicans, keep tearing down, threatening impeachment. That's the reason Trump is so upset about this. There would be no threats of impeachment if this nonsense was thrown out. And there would be no nonsense if Jeff Sessions hadn't lied and taken a job that he was going to recuse himself for.
Well, that's because he is a major part of the deep swamp, the swamp, the deep state, shadow government. Okay, we've got to move on.
Yep.
Okay, now this is why aren't they firing no talent Samantha Bee? Now, we're so far behind right now with our tweet decoding. Everybody knows who Samantha Bee is. For the horrible language used on her low-rating show. A total double standard, but that's okay. We are winning, and we will be doing so for a long time to come.
He demanded an apology, and he didn't get one, and she didn't get fired, and yet other people who do much less do get fired. And so it's the double standard. And so really, her show is so horrible that...
Can we move on? That's such an insignificant
But her show is horrible, and how anybody could even think that she should be given any press time. It's kind of like Kathy Griffith.
Oh, okay.
How could anybody give him any press time? Only because they're so desperate for anything negative Trump.
Right. I want to move on because, the reason we didn't comment on these tweets earlier, frankly, is that I didn't see any meat on the bone. I want to see tweets where we can really rip into it and get some flesh off the bone. Okay, now, looking forward to seeing the employment numbers at 8:30 this morning. They look good.
Yeah. Oh, well, and then later on he talks about it, so we can keep on moving. But he's just saying he knows it's going to be good. Well, like as good as in history, as good as in modern history. These numbers, the winning is so powerful that literally it's not a joke. We're kind of tired of all the winning, Mr. President, but keep on winning.
Okay, I'm going to move up to June 1st for the 8 a.m. tweet. Canada has treated our agriculture business and farmers very poorly for a very long period of time. High restrictive on trade. They must open their markets and take down their trade barriers. They report a really high surplus on trade with us due timber and lumber in U.S.
You see, what he's pointing at, which he's pointed out before, is they lie. They take out the biggest items, farming, timber, lumber, and then they take out the fact that they buy our steel and aluminum, up the price, and sell it to other people because there's no tariffs on Canada and Mexico in the NAFTA agreement, NAFTA treaty. So what he's pointing at is it's all lies. Lie, 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 lie. He's tired of the lies. He's got to call these people out, and they can go on and on with whatever they want. But here's the deal. They need us. They desperately need us. They have been living off of us, drinking our blood. These are vampires. These are vampire trade agreements. And he's just breaking their hold, and they're really upset because he keeps busting them. This is like the third or fourth time that he's busted Canada and says, you're simply liars. And Canada, they're sneaking around, stealing from us, selling to people, undercutting us with aluminum and steel. That's why they don't like the tariffs. Mexico? Oh yes, there are Mexican leaders who say that they're not going to pay for that wall. You know how many Mexican leaders have been murdered in the last 10 years? Mexico is a place where politicians get murdered all the time. So we don't really need to feel that we have any obligation to make the rich families of Mexico richer with the NAFTA. So that's what he's doing. He's blasting really Canada and Mexico, even though he didn't include Mexico in this.
Then we wrapped up that day with the tweets about the Coast Guard, which is all very good, but I want to move on to the
Coast Guard is beautiful.
Yes.
It was a beautiful ceremony.
Yes, and that very important that we have a strong Coast Guard because we need to protect our borders, and it's not always just about the borders on the land. It's about the water border too.
And it's a transfer of command to a new commander. It was just a lovely ceremony showing that he really supports our troops, and he loves the Coast Guard.
Okay, then we go into June 2nd, quote, we ran out of words to describe how good the job numbers are, close quote, Neil Irwin of the New York Times.
Before he said he was waiting, couldn't wait to see them, President did. Now he's quoting somebody saying, there's not even words to describe. Matter of fact, you and I were talking yesterday, Betsy, saying, okay, maybe these systems of numbers were corrupted during Obama's time, and now that they really are going forward, they look exponentially fantastic or something or whatever. No, yes and no, and who knows? The point is that it couldn't look any better for Trump. The winning is so overwhelming that we have to sit down to just hear the news about the new types of winning that he's accomplishing every day.
And the best thing is the more of us that keep focusing on the tweets out here and that we want to hear about the tweets, it makes the news agencies have to report about them, and they just hate it because now, quote, John Brennan, no single figure in American history has done more to discredit the intelligence community than this liar. He's a liar about being a liar, close quote.
That's a quote from somebody, and he's retweeting it, though that it doesn't indicate it here. So the point is that John Brennan came out, he testified, and everything that he testified, he now says he didn't say. He's created lies about the lies, and we're just sitting here laughing, going, he's a newscaster, he's a contributor to news. This liar is now showing that where do you go when you're a liar who lies about lies? You go to the mainstream media, and they pay you a lot of money to invent new lies about all those other lies.
But now it's legal to lie and propagandize against Americans.
Yes, but you have to do it very specifically, and he's not doing it that way, and neither is Clapper.
Okay.
So both of them are actually getting themselves in deeper water every day they go to work, and they're a newscaster and a contributor, because, again, they're lying. Well, and they're showing everybody the truth by all their lies.
In the next tweet, that is a repeated statement, but this time credit is given to Dan Bongino on Fox and Friends. And so folks are like going, oh my gosh, Trump said this, and they didn't pay attention to the quotes, and then he messing with him. Because in the next quote, he quickly gives credit to Dan for the quote. But can you imagine, for the first few minutes, you're looking at going, is Donald Trump just calling John Brennan out as a liar?
Well, he's got it in quotes, but yes, you're right.
Yeah.
When you first look at that, you think Trump is saying it. He's going, well, wait. If he's saying that, then he's demanding an investigation of John Brennan.
Yeah.
Because remember, these are public record. And when he demands that someone be investigated, the DOJ has to investigate them in the FBI.
Because when we are
He's the president. He's their boss.
When we're decoding the tweets, we're not only looking at what the words say, we're looking at the rhythm, the placement of things, because, isn't that the nature of cryptology, Thomas? Mm-hmm. Okay, so then we have another quote, this time from Don Bongino. 17 million spent. It's a scam investigation. Americans are being worked. We now know there was Russian collusion with Russians and the Democrats. The Mueller team is stacked with anti-Trumpers who actually represented Clinton people and gave dollar signs to Crooked H.
It's just come out that the Federal Elections Commission is dragging their heels on investigating all the horrible crimes that Hillary and Podesta committed. Now they're going after the state of Maine, because that's where a lot of the money was shuffled through. $84 million was shuffled to the states that came directly to Hillary. That's what he's talking about here. That literally, not only did these crooked people give to Hillary, but then Hillary, through Obama's administration, gave money to people like Christopher Steele through Fusion GPS, through Perkins Coie, through the Democratic National Committee ordered by John Podesta and Hillary Clinton and Hillary Victory Fund. And we're seeing that all this money flowed around, and the Democrats were basically simply paying everybody, foreign agents, FBI, everybody was getting their piece of the pie, or else they were just joining in like Brennan, just enthusiastically on her side, Hillary's side, to make sure she got elected no matter what. And that's what he's saying. All this focus on him, so that the focus is taken away from the fact that where is the IG report on the partisanship between the DOJ and the FBI? It couldn't be any worse than it is, than we already know from the struck page text and from the Nunes memo and so on and so forth. It couldn't get any worse. And what's happening? Nothing. Not a single person looking at any of the crimes of the Democrats. And the crime of money, the money crimes, are so clear that they're coming out every day, even in mainstream media, and still, Jeff Sessions does nothing.
This is a record that will never be broken. And if you are looking at the article, it's a meme. It's a picture of Brian Nelson, 1945 PGA.
18 tournaments he won that year in 45, and basically Trump is saying no one's ever going to beat that. And so good luck with all your projections of others who may get close.
And then the next one was a retweet. Kim Kardashian. I would like to thank President Trump for his time this afternoon. It is our hope that the president will grant clemency to Alice Marie Johnson.
For a one-time drug offense, and she's a very old woman, and she needs to be let out, just like some of these people that he's pardoning. These are people these were horrible, horrible convictions against them. Should have never happened. And so he's now that he is no longer considered to be under investigation by Mueller. There will be no indictment. There is no Russian collusion. He's beginning to give pardons out, and she deserves it. And we wanted to point out that everyone was criticizing her, saying, what does she know about prisons? She was there for exactly what we told you she was there for, Alice Johnson. She was there to plead a case for someone who deserves to be let out of prison. I don't think that anyone could possibly question a motivation like that if they had a true heart.
I loved the next tweet because it went directly to Trump's weekly address. I liked the brevity of it. He focused on the obstructionist and said basically, stop resisting the will of the American people. I see that like a modern day fireside chat.
Absolutely. And listen to those, all of you. Make sure you listen to them, because you'll hear what the real news is. And just as Betsy pointed out, it's the obstructionist stopping he's got 400 people lined up in just one area to get their approval, but he also has 1,400 people he's supposed to appoint, and he's appointed only a fraction of them because he can't even get the big jobs filled. And we've waited longer, he has waited, and the American people have waited longer for these appointments to be ratified by Congress longer than any president in history. This is absurd.
And not just Congress. I believe when I listen to this, because we know now so much about senior executive service, is that any kind of obstruction that may even be occurring at the administrative level.
Absolutely. SES members are there obstructing everything. We just were talking the other day, and people in the military and people in all branches of the government will tell you, SES runs it.
Yeah.
And they're all terrified of them. But then they tell you these crazy stories that they believe about them, which are not true. We'll tell you the crazy sounding stories, which are true, which the insiders don't even know, because they've all got blinders on. They've all been told and propagandized, and they've all been brain-bended to believe that SES people are good and that they aren't paid a fortune. That's incorrect. So, yes, he was hammering on the Democrats, because as we come to this midterm, the Democrats are just flaking. They're crumbling. There's nothing. There's nobody saying anything. Elizabeth Warren, they're talking about running for president. Pocahontas, really? They're going to run Pocahontas for president?
Their bench is very thin. Who do they have? And everyone they trot out, they probably poll it right after and find out that they couldn't win student council president. So...
yeah, so he's these are beautiful little political bombs really being dropped on the Democrats, but they're not bombs. The Democrats go and grab the bomb, hold them, a grenade, pull the pin, and blow themselves up. Every time they open their mouth, it's becoming quite hysterically funny as far as I'm concerned.
The next tweet moves to China. I'm very surprised that China would be doing this. And if you go in, you'll see a picture of a retweet.
And the retweet is that Mattis said recently to the news that China is becoming a little bit aggressive down there in the South China Sea. And so Trump is asking two questions. There's question marks, or a question mark here. And that is, very surprised that China would be doing this. Matter of fact, I thought there was a second question. Anyway, the point is, it's a question mark. He's saying to China, really? Do you really want to be doing this? That tweet is to President Xi.
Or is it to we the people? Are we surprised to see China doing this?
When we decide to boycott China, China will collapse. We don't want to collapse China, but if we need to collapse China, we can. China doesn't understand. They spent all their U.S. Treasury dollars in foreign countries buying resources because they thought they were going to continue being the manufacturer, the sole manufacturer for American products. No, and we don't have to buy from Taiwan either, so stop attacking Taiwan, mainland China. Premier Xi, please stop attacking Taiwan. They never were part of you, and they're not part of you now, and your military aggression there, as well as in the South China Sea, is going to be met not with military counter-aggression. No, you are so silly. People think, Mattis is going to drop bombs. No, Trump will simply put some sanctions on, or simply say, okay, now we're going to put this bigger tariff on, and your tariff on our cars is going to go lower. Okay, then, no, we're not going to allow your phones to be sold in America. That company you just bought here? Yeah, we just seized all your assets. Yeah. Remember, their assets, a huge portion of their U.S. Treasury bond assets from our trade deficit that was created by Bill and Hillary Clinton when they got China into the World Trade Organization, I would say illegally, because look at their human rights violations. How could they have ever become most favored nation trading status at that time? That's because Hillary went on to the board of Walmart, and Walmart, through Taiwan, and China was controlling it, basically brought more than 51% of our household products to us from China. All the substandard products using substandard everything. Everything in China is cheating. It's all fake. It's all replicas, and it's filled literally with poisons. If you look closely, just look back on their record. Soon, China will be begging us to buy things from them, and you know what they're going to have? Nothing but a whole bunch of weapons and nobody to take it out on. And we're not going to have conventional warfare like that anymore. They're so silly. It's like nations that rush to build giant ships and submarines You must be kidding. We send up a missile to knock one of those out. We send up a very cheap missile to knock out your mega $100 million whatever. One missile.
No, it's
a drone. We're doing it from Florida. We attacked Iraq from Florida. Do people understand this? There's no more warfare. Boots on the ground, first off, is the most disgusting thing I can possibly think that any pundit or anyone in the news could ever say. There's humans in those boots. I say put no human in the way of danger for any other country unless the United States citizens vote for that war as the way it should be. Okay, that pulls us back from, 84 different bases and 100... Anyway, it would pull us out of many, many countries where we're simply doing the work of the CIA, the USAID, and so on and so forth, which we've explained so many times before. Sorry, I think I got kind of lost on that one.
Okay, the next one is real. Fox News is doing great. Fake news. CNN is dead. And, that's all well and good, because, our audience knows, of course, fake news is CNN and so many more. But Fox News, folks, we need to be the Jack Russells of Fox News and keep nipping at their heels because they are still not going as far as they need to go in telling what's really going on. Omission to me is as bad as just coming right out and lying, but they're not talking about the depths of this. They're not leading this back to the Queen, which we've shown with Sir Geoffrey Patty, with the Privy Council. There is this scope of this Spygate situation is international and huge. So when is Fox going to step up and do that kind of work?
Well, I think what he's also indicating is not only that Fox is popular in relationship to the news agencies, it has 10 of the top 15 shows. 10, let me repeat that. It is the only Republican slanted news, and it has 10 of the top 15 news shows, okay? So what he's saying is, just like you're saying, very nice, Fox, we need a real media. We need to go beyond Fox. We need to open a news agency that would just sweep the country and be wildly popular.
I have a whole nother model in my head of how this works, where it's decentralized. People that are the consumers of the media get to vote. Those votes then convert into actual money for the creators, because we don't need some intermediary priest kind of news person to tell us what's happening. I want to hear it from the people that are experiencing that news. Independent media is so exciting, very interactive. It's not like TV where it just feeds stuff to you.
Well, I agree with that 100%. That's why we do what we do, obviously. We're citizen journalists, and we believe that we are affecting consciousness. Now, when you watch TV, there's no consciousness involved. It's a passive activity where you're being programmed. You are being subliminally programmed, and you don't even know it. So when you're watching the news, even Fox, you are, in fact, being programmed. So what Betsy's saying is correct. Now, what I'm saying is, it just shows that a Roseanne who comes out and is only slightly to the right of center with a few, bad jokes, or Tim Allen who is to the right of center, he gets fired. She's gone. Was that a setup? Who gave her phone? Why would you allow somebody on so many drugs to even have a phone? And get herself in trouble, especially someone with loose lips like that who has no impulse control. So it's a setup, but what it showed was the interest. That's my point, that if the Mercers, who of course also funded SCL and Cambridge Analytica, who pulled out of Breitbart because they saw that it was going to have to go further right of center, who is funding it? Why doesn't somebody throw down a little money and start the biggest broadcasting news agency on the air by simply telling the truth? I don't know that the other 6 owners of the mainstream media would allow that to happen.
Okay, there was no collusion with Russia except by the Democrats. When will this very expensive witch hunt hoax ever end? So bad for our country. Is the special counsel, Justice Department, leaking my lawyer's letters to the fake news media? Should be looking at Dems' corruption instead?
This one is packed. First off, they're talking about, let's just go with this top statement. No collusion with him, except with the Democrats. So what did he just do? He just demanded that the Department of Justice do an investigation on collusion between the Democrats and the Russians. Has anyone started that? Jeff Sessions? Anyone? Anyone? A junior lawyer? Perhaps someone just out of law school? Anybody? Anybody? No, nobody.
And his tweets are now official presidential record.
He's probably demanded this, I don't know, many, many, many times. I don't want to exaggerate, many times. When will this very expensive witch hunt ever end? Well, we have Giuliani saying it'll end September the 1st. No. It needs to end immediately, but they can't end it because they have so many things in court. They'd have to simply throw the whole thing out and all indictments thrown out and everything thrown out. Can that happen? Yes, that can happen. Can Mueller be fired? Yes, Mueller can be fired. Can Rosenstein stop the investigation? Yes, he can. Would it have to continue under other auspices? No, it would not. So could it end today? Yes, it could. So basically he's saying, y'all are wasting taxpayer money. You already found out what you said you were supposedly going to investigate, even though it was illegal that you were doing so. So stop. This is a hoax. Now it's going to become a fraud, and soon it will become much worse. So he keeps using the word hoax, but it's even worse than that. And it's so bad for our country. Yes, it is. And the special counsel leaking the lawyer. What he's talking about is Stormy Daniels' insane lawyer, who is like $10 million in debt for taxes and should go straight to jail, but he's a lawyer, who's trying to get the money back. He's gone on a speaking tour, a publicity tour, and the judges said, this is insane. You got to stop this. Has he stopped it? No, he hasn't. What did he do? He was used as the front guy for the leak from the Mueller investigation that went in and got the Treasury's investigation of Cohen's personal financial information that could have only been pulled out by the special investigator, gave it to this lawyer of Stormy Daniels, and he keeps releasing it. And so any minute, that is going to taint the case to the point that, again, that it'll have to be thrown out. So the whole Cohen thing, because he's a lawyer, as long as he has money to play the game, he'll be able to get out of it because of that thing that just happened that was, in fact, an absolute leak. And so what is Trump saying? Michael Horowitz, there's leaks in the special counsel. Are you looking at them? We see them every day. My lawyer's personal financial information that could have only been extracted by the U.S. Treasury, and that means they went behind the president's back. That means that the special counsel not only has some special magical abilities given to him by Rod Rosenstein to go to the FISA court and get FISA warrants now and continue FISA warrants, the bad ones that he's continued on. But he also can go to the Treasury Department and get secret information that was stolen by an improper theft of personal material of Michael Cohen's, the president's lawyer. This is insane.
Hey, when I tap you under the table like that, that doesn't mean giddy up, boy.
Oh.
Okay, it means take a moment. You said that he's giving a shot across the bow to Michael Horowitz. And I just want to say, Thomas, a lot of people out there still believe Michael Horowitz is a white hat.
Then they should have read what you posted in Truth News headlines from person after person who says, hello, Thomas is right. Anyone ever involved with the government and any Inspector General investigation knows that they are a fraudulent cover-up of the tracks of the elite in that agency, and the only thing they ever uncover are the small crimes of the little people. And you cannot count on an Inspector General's investigation to do anything. If there had been anything discovered that he was going to actually be honest about, there would have already been indictments, and there are not.